Welcome to the PghGal Principal Podcast, where women school leaders and teachers come to share their school and classroom stories about teaching, learning, and leading. If you are a woman leader or teacher, I would love to have you on the show and share your story. Please connect with me on Twitter at eclaire_ahs or following my blog at pittsburghgalprincipal.wordpress.com. This is episode 9 of the PghGal Principal Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited today to be connecting with a lady that I've been sharing a little bit back and forth with on Voxer. So this is a great way to connect outside of the Voxer group. But this is Debbie Campbell. She is a communications director and director of special projects out in Texas at a very diverse high school in Houston. The high school has about 3,600 students, and it is a world language magnet school with, I believe, 11 different languages taught at that school. So, Debbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Emily. Thanks. How are you?
I'm just wonderful. So why don't we start with you just giving us, just sharing a brief background of where you got started and how you ended up as the communications director and director of special projects.
Sure. I started out actually at the elementary level. I was at the elementary level for 17 years. I was a third grade teacher and an instructional technologist at the elementary level. Or I guess I was in the mainstream classroom for about 7 years, and then 6 or 7 years, and then I was an instructional technologist serving K through, or actually pre-K through 5th graders for 10 years. And during that time, I also got my master's in administration and had 3 children, very close together. And so I took a brief step away from education for my own kids. And at that time, when I stepped away, I also got very involved in the public school system from the parental side of it, and kind of experienced what it was like trying to get information from the school system as a parent. And so when I went back into the classroom as a technologist, I kind of walked back in with the other side, and knowing what I knew was going on in the school, but what wasn't getting out to the public. And so over time, as my daughter started at the high school and I developed a relationship with the high school, I was offered a position to come over and help with their communication. And so I took my instructional technology background, and we also went one-on-one as a high school campus all at the same time. So that's how I ended up where I'm at.
Wow. Okay. So what exactly does a communications director and director of special projects, what does that mean you do on a daily basis?
Okay. So what it means and what it's meant over time, it's evolved is what it's meant. I am responsible. I work really closely with my principal on all of our social media. We're very active on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram. And so our school being so large, there's so much information and such a story to get out there to tell that could be a job just all on its own. So in the beginning, I kind of managed it all, or I did it all, and now I almost more manage it. And so I've got a lot of buy-in from people in the building. And so the communications aspect of that, also, weekly e-news out. I also do the comprehensive website, and then I look at all the big systems within the school to make sure kind of everything's talking to each other and that their message is getting out about what's going on, when, and how that works. Then the director of special projects kind of got thrown in to my instructional technology background came in when we went one-on-one. And so almost that whole umbrella of our instructional technology and working with the teachers kind of got lumped into one of the things that's called special projects. And so I work a lot with helping teachers with the instructional technology, and it goes on, but that's basically it.
Okay. Now you said that you first did it all in terms of social media, and now you are just managing it. So I'm curious to know how you kind of what you did, if anything, intentional to get people sort of on board in terms of sharing their story on social media so that, again, you didn't have to do it all now, you could just manage it?
Right. Okay. So that's a great question, and I would step back and say that we are by no means there, but we are definitely headed down the road in that happening. And I can tell you some ways that it's happened. A lot of it has just been with working with the teachers, with the technology in their room, showing them, coming in initially, and then seeing what they were doing and sharing it for them. And then, like this summer, we've done a Twitter challenge where it's not compliance, it's voluntary, where I get a lot of questions. Well, how does it work? Well, go ahead and take this 11-day Twitter challenge with us. And at the end of it, you're going to have a lot better understanding of how then you can turn and share. What does it mean to tag? How can I find your classroom really easily and then share it out with our 2,500 followers and get you a lot more exposure? And so it's just kind of step by step. It's getting them to value it first so that they understand what it is, and then showing them how we can magnify that for them. And then it's getting them to send stuff to me as much as they can.
Yeah, now the Twitter challenge, so is there like specific things for people to do in the 11 days or?
Yes, exactly. So what I did was, and a lot of different people have done these. In fact, Jennifer Hogan is who I got the initial idea from. And then I took her idea, and how I changed it a little was that I sent it out through a Remind group. So what I did was I said, give us 10 minutes for 11 days, and you'll be at a different place in your learning at the end of it. So I scheduled a Remind message to go. I ran it 4 different times during the summer, and actually that was Jennifer's idea. She suggested that I run it 4 times during the summer, and then I sent out one specific thing for them to do each day, how to set it up, advice on, their name, and each day it just had something different that they could do. And then I also tried to throw in some tools that they could use in their classroom. Like when I did the terms like retweet and what all that was, I went into Quizlet, and I did a game for them to be able to play to try and learn them. So I tried to throw in tools along the way on the challenge that maybe they could also use in their own classrooms.
Oh, very cool. So I'm assuming you've probably had some good success with that.
Yeah, and it changed a little bit too from the first time I did it. The 11 messages that I sent out, I tweaked them a little bit, only because I'd run across some other resources, and so I think it's kind of evolved to a place where it's gotten even better. But more and more people have kind of jumped on board, and it'll be fun in August when we go back, because although we have 200 teachers, I'm happy that 25 of them have done it this summer. But I really want to highlight them and have them share, and I figure we'll get a lot more buy-in when they can share what they've learned. And what I'm really excited about is I've got a couple of brand new teachers. My principal was awesome in that he reaches out there and he brings them in, really fast. And so some of the new people to our campus hopped on, and so it's always great to have the new people coming in, pulling you up and setting the standard high.
Absolutely. That's very cool. Now, I recently heard about a Tweet Me app. Have you heard of that?
I have not heard of Tweet Me.
It costs 99 cents, but I guess it's an app that teachers can use to learn, to basically sort of self-pace them through how to use Twitter and the benefits of it. I haven't tried it out yet, but... that would be a great idea. Now, the other great thing, this is how I said that it's evolved, is Participate Learning. I don't know if you've seen, but it's really cool. They've taken the Twitter, they've kind of curated all the educational Twitter chats that are going on. They'll send out reminders that they're about to happen, and then they have simplified the interface of Twitter to make it to where the stream is coming right in front of you, and then it has a section over on the left where it pulls out any resources that are being shared during the chat. I think we all remember when we first started looking or reading chats or trying to even participate in one, it can be very overwhelming. And so
I can't remember. I learned about Participate Learning when I was at ITSE, and I've gone back out and shared it a few times, and it's a great resource for somebody who's trying to understand how a chat works, to follow one.
So is Participate Learning, is it just another app that you have like on your phone?
No, it's a website.
Okay.
And then they're also on Twitter. So it's just Participate Learning. And so then if you're following them, they're sending out reminders. This chat, Texas Ed Chat's going on. It's starting in 15 minutes. And so then if you click on their link, when it'll have all the different chats, and if you're going to do Texas Ed Chat, you click on it, and then it simplifies the screen for you. You're going through their interface instead of Twitter's interface. There's TweetDeck and all those different things, but this is like on training wheels.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So there are so many Twitter chats out there. I mean, so many great ways to connect with other people. Which ones are you pretty involved with, or which ones do you like to participate in?
Oh gosh, I love Hack Learning. I love Jennifer's Alabama their Ed Chat. There's always good questions there. Ohio, Texas Ed Chat is great. There are some folks in my district who have started one, and I always like to participate in that, only, to support them and to try and get you would think in a huge Texas city that there would be more educators involved and included, but there aren't. It's surprising.
Slow. Maybe it's just slow to get around to people or for people to know about it.
Right.
So you went to ITSE. I'm super jealous. Tell me about that.
It is something that has been on my bucket list for a long time, and it actually wasn't even our budget for me to be able to do it this year. And I just made it a priority. I wanted to do the learning. I went by myself, and I say I went by myself. It was intimidating at first, and then I realized how many people that I knew that I had just never actually met in person.
Right.
And it actually pushed me more than had I gone more in my comfort zone with the team. So it was great. By the end of it, I really was so tired the last day. I actually had texted my principal, and I'm like, I'm on learning overload. And he actually went on and planned my last day, and he planned great sessions for me. But there were 238 to pick from. And so it was cool that, the learning was wonderful.
Absolutely. Will you share with us what your favorite session was, if you had one?
Oh, gosh. If I had to pick a favorite or something, that's really tough. I will tell you this. I did not get up and walk out of one session that I was in, which is, I really believe in that 2 feet, Ed Camp style. If you're not getting something from it, every single presentation was just great. There were, I think it's Jen Williams. Well, no, it's not Jen Williams. Let me think if I can think of who did it. There was one session we've really, going one-on-one at the high school level in a traditional environment it's been 3 years of evolving, and coming from the elementary level where the kids were using a lot of the technology, and then entering the high school level where it was just being introduced. It wasn't something that I, even coming from a technology background, necessarily knew what to do with right off the bat. And it's been 3 years of evolution of trying to help and support and honor the work the teachers are doing. So my long answer to your question was, there was one session where they talked about, we know that it's about the pedagogy and then supporting it with the tools, but they talked about how you really, when you approach teachers, and like if you take the topic of grading, you've got 180 students, and that's a lot of grading. What if I show you these 5 ways that could make the grading easier and faster for you? And why don't you go back and use or try out some of them and then revisit it with them? So they gave us 10 different ways 10 different topics to broach with teachers that help solve their problems and make their pedagogy stronger through using the technology, or just their whole job easier. And so that was a session that I think I walked away with, a solid plan of how I could implement it in my room or in my
absolutely.
school.
It sounds like a lot of things that you could take back to your district in Texas.
It's in San Antonio next summer, so put it on the list.
I'll have to mark it down. Put it in the budget that was, done months and months and months ago. Like, I always find that process to be so insane. So you're 1-to-1 at your high school, and you said that's been a 3-year process. Can you share with me a little bit how that process started and kind of what you've done the past 3 years to keep the momentum going?
Sure. So our district did it in phases where they rolled it out, and our high school was one of the very first ones they did it in. So they gave the laptops to the teachers at in-service in the fall, and then the students the first year got them in January.
Okay.
Well, that year was pretty much, you could just pretty much chalk that whole year up to, we spent a lot of time with our community informing them on basically how the kids were going to get the computers, what they were responsible for on the computers, what happened if they all were like, oh, if my kid hurts or damages the computer, what happens? It seems like our first year, it was just really building buy-in that the devices were going to be here and that it was okay, and how that was going to look for the kids, and if they started to not work right, how that, all the logistical stuff seems like what happened the first year. Have to say that it truly wasn't on the classroom, even though I wish I could say that was the case, but we had to just get used to having them in the building first. The support system from administration on how we dealt with the teachers was, you've got it. Our expectation is it's going to look different for what you're trying in one room. Some people are going to be very comfortable trying some things. Other people are going to be, more laid back. Not laid back's not the right word, but they're going to be more cautionary, and they're going to be watching. The third year, I think, last year was our breakthrough, in that the computers went out very smoothly. The kids had them. The district kind of ripped the Band-Aid, in that we didn't adopt textbooks. So, and our teachers had been on Edmodo, and then the district wanted us to use an LMS, and that didn't necessarily honor the work the teachers had put into Edmodo and trying to get their class organized. And then when we told them they had to 360 change to an LMS, we lost a lot of credibility, and that backed us up a whole lot. I'm not going to go into all the reasons why those things happened, but I'm glad we started 3 years ago, but there definitely were some setbacks.
Sure.
So now we're using one LMS. Edmodo's blocked. Schoology is blocked. Our teachers can't use any of those tools because our district has really decided they want us to use the LMS that they have purchased. And that's mainly for single sign-on issues and things like that. But our big takeaway from our third year was a team of us spent a lot of time doing walkthroughs, just learning walks through classrooms and observing 21st century skills. And at this point this year, we really kind of separated apart, what are we seeing? Because we're a very high-performing school. Our AP scores, you're not going to find. Our high kids, you're not going to find another high school. They don't put out comparisons, but there's nobody in our area anywhere that gets the results we can. So walking into a teacher's room and who's very successful and saying, well, we want you to try some different things. Well, you've got to honor what they're doing. And when all the measures and the ways they're being evaluated is their scores are off the chart, it's hard to tell them to change. So what we kind of pulled apart this year was traditional success versus we went in and really looked at 21st century skills. When we're visiting these classrooms, what are the examples of collaboration we're seeing? How are we seeing kids create? What different types of seating styles? Are we seeing teacher-centered? Are we seeing student-centered? And again, this is a very traditional, huge, comprehensive high school. And so the patterns we were seeing kind of opened our eyes to the type of resources and things we needed to share with our teachers to help not only be successful, testing-wise, but getting our kids strong and with the softer skills and the 21st century skills that we want them to walk out of the building with.
Yeah, that can be a tough sell when, like you said, they're based on the measures that the teacher's being assessed on, like AP scores, for example.
Right.
But, we know that so many of what our kids need just isn't assessed. My superintendent often says what counts can't often be counted. And so I think that's what you're getting at with the 21st century skills. I'm curious to know if you guys are using in your district some sort of framework to help you with, standards for 21st century learning, or is it really kind of locally defined?
Okay, so that's a great question. And yeah, it's going to be locally defined, and it actually evolved. We put together a tool, a learning walk tool, completely non-evaluative. It doesn't matter, what classroom we're in, but as we walked as a team through room, the energy and the learning, it became very concrete and visible to us. The rooms that were developing those skills, the energy and what the kids were doing in them was very different. And I will share a story with you it just nailed it, because one of the people that were walking with us on our team were also, some of them were not completely bought into what we were trying to figure out, and they were there to learn along with us, that's just what has to happen. And a lot of times they just, okay, well, that room was using technology, We walked into an AP English room, and we walked in, and it was completely student-led. The kids were all in a circle. They were having a book discussion that was led, actually, it was a Socratic seminar led by two students in the front of the room, and evidence was being given. The teacher, we walked out of the room and we looked at each other and we were like, that was awesome. And then another person that was with us looked and said, oh, I'm so glad you thought that, because I thought y'all were going to be upset that no technology was being used. And at that point, it was like, that's not what we're looking at. That was a perfect example of what we're looking at. And then we were able then to connect it to some rooms that we had been going into where a lot of technology had been being used to be able to do some things that wouldn't have been possible without it. But it was just one of those aha moments where our team identified that we're not just looking for stuff being used. We're looking for the bigger picture and what kids are taking away. And so it took us 3 years to have that aha moment, but it was kind of a, jump off the cliff.
Yeah, I love that story. It's a great example of, pedagogy first and technology just to enhance it. I'd be interested in that learning walk tool. I don't know if you're allowed to share it.
Oh, sure. I mean, I can definitely send it to you. And I mean, it's rough. And like I said, it even evolved after, we used it the first time. But it's kind of just a set of questions that we go through and we answer, do you see this? Do you see that? And then there's no scientific thing we're doing with the data other than it gave us as a team the big picture of kind of what we were looking at. But I can send you a link to it.
Yeah,
but don't judge because it's being developed.
I don't judge. I understand everything's always in an iteration. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Do you take teachers along with you on your learning walks, or?
Yes. Well, we have not at this point. This was just trying to get the overall kind of picture of where we were going. Yes, I would very much like to. Now, in going back to like the sharing and the communicating, the whole, and being in the classrooms more than and sharing those types of things that we're seeing, it kind of snowballs and starts to happen to where they're getting to see through the sharing out. But we'd also love I want to add some 360 cameras and some things that they can use as tools to help share among themselves. That's definitely on my list of projects to add this year.
What do you mean with, I know what a 360 camera is, but what is your vision for using that for teachers?
For them to be able to watch their own lessons and share within their PLCs so that they're recorded. There's Swivel, there's a bunch of them out there that are branded just, for teachers to help them, develop and then share amongst themselves what they're doing. It's really hard, and I know you know this. It's hard to get them out. My teachers, when I go into one of their rooms, I don't want a lot of them. They have been there so long, and they're such prideful. They teach from the bell to the bell, and they are going. I don't want to interrupt them. And so even suggesting that they come out of their room and give up that instructional time, they value it so much that it's just not going to happen easily at my school. They want to be with their kids. And so being able to film themselves, or, I've got a teacher, Kay Cabina, she's incredible. But if she can film herself, or we can film that, and then she can share that, in a PLC, they teach 5 preps or five classes, and they have 2 off. So they have some time that they can share amongst themselves. I just think the video would be very helpful for them. I know that when I was in the classroom, the few times that I was taped, and I want them to own that. I don't want it to be evaluative at all. I want the teachers to own that and to be able to reflect and learn together from it.
Absolutely. I mean, I so get the value of taping yourself, videotaping yourself. I don't know if the national board certification is a big thing in Texas. When I first started teaching in North Carolina, it was definitely a big thing. And so I went through that process and, really felt the value of videotaping yourself, even though I did it when I was very, very pregnant. And that wasn't very fun to watch. But, when you force yourself to really watch yourself teaching as well as what the kids are doing, I mean, there's just so many amazing things that you can learn from that. But I do think it's scary for most people, especially if they've never done it before, especially if, asking people to share it with other teachers in their PLC. I mean, I think it has to be done and it should be done. But I think it's tough for some people to do it.
Right, and we haven't gone there yet. But and like I said, I think the more you make it where it's non-evaluative and you're celebrating things, it might just be share something. I mean, just on the positive, what went really great that you liked, and why do you think it worked? It just seems like it's natural, A lot of the times that good, great things happen, it's those 4 walls are there, and you look around and you're like, that was so cool, but nobody knows about it. And, you can run to the next room and tell somebody, but, I mean, if you have a way to share it, that's one of the whole, I want more of those moments and those good moments. And then when you're struggling, goodness gracious, I mean, we've got some tough classes, and I don't have all the answers to meeting, every single one of those students' needs. But if a teacher's having a hard time with a particular group of kids or a class, I don't think it should be reflective on them. I think that's when they should be able to say, these kids have got some needs that I haven't identified yet, and I've got to figure out a way to meet them where they are. Help me figure out where they are and be more successful, and it not be part of their evaluation. Just, it's tough. It's a tough situation trying to reach every single kid and to expect, every single classroom teacher to be able to figure it out on their own. I just don't think is realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about the structure of the high school schedule. I know you said that each teacher has 5 classes and then 2 periods off. So is it a 7-period day? And then what do they do on that second off period? Okay,
so that's a great question. So, it's actually, we run 8 periods, but the 8th period is very, very few classes. So, it's basically a 7-period day. They teach 5 classes. With 3,600 students, we have 1 lunch. So we break for about 42 minutes in the middle of the day, and everybody eats lunch at the same time, which means the entire first floor of our facility turns into our lunchroom. All the hallways, the kids are eating everywhere. There's cool. Food vendors. It is so cool.
And that's what I want you to get on 360 camera.
I can send you some pictures. People come and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" Well, what's amazing is we have done this for 20 years. It's not even something that's new. We have about 115 clubs, so all the clubs also meet at lunchtime. And since our zone is huge, and we're a Title I school, we have a lot of kids that come in on buses that live, not within 2 miles of our range, and they need to be on a bus leaving at 3:15. So during lunch, everybody can have their club meetings. We really encourage kids to get involved, and there are luncheons. There are all kinds of things that happen during that period. The other thing that also happens during lunch is that every single one of our teachers are in their rooms, and tutorials are available, retesting is available, student support is available. So while we break from the traditional day, that's kind of where there's tons of choice and opportunities available for kids, and it's a really neat time of the day. Then the teachers will have sometime during the day, they'll have one period where that is designated as their planning period. Then they'll have another period during the day that is designated as their PLC time, and that is time that they can get together with, our Russian teacher is the only Russian teacher. Her PLC would have to be other foreign, it's not a perfect, but she has that additional time then to work or network or as her time. So we have PLCs that are, 8 people, and then we have PLCs that are 1 person. But that second planning period is meant for a common time for teachers to be able to get together or be with their assistant principal and work as a team.
Cool. So, just thinking about the Russian teacher, it would be great, maybe she already is, if she was on Twitter and able to connect with other Russian teachers in the country that way. Or
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and that are all the kind of connections that we're working towards, just in general, and all of them making happen. And how cool will it be when those PLCs are PLCs without that reach outside the building and they make those big connections, and in general. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, just a virtual opportunity there. Now, I don't know a lot about Texas and the school system in Texas. Can you share a little bit about just education in Texas in general, maybe some of the challenges and opportunities that you guys have going on in your state right now?
Sure. A couple of them. I think that they're pretty similar to most people. We have a lot of testing, and we have a lot of required testing. It went totally out of control probably about 6 years ago, to where our high school freshmen were going to have to pass 15 state exams.
Oh my gosh.
By the time they graduated from high school, and my daughter was actually a freshman there. I think she had like 12 half days that spring semester because there was so much testing.
Wow.
They pulled back, and now, so I'm going to focus on the high school level. Students all have to pass 5 state exams before they are eligible to graduate from high school. There's a lot of testing, and then you couple that with all the AP testing that we do. So my school offers, I think we have 33 AP classes.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Now, just so you know, Debbie, I'm in a school district that has 1,600 students in the entire district.
Oh my gosh.
So my situation's a bit smaller than yours.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the enormity of it is, a lot. And there's good and bad with that. And the other thing that we are faced with is, is financial. We took a huge. I think our district lost 60 million, 600 million. I don't know what zero goes on it, but Texas is. We were declared a property-rich district, and so they came back and recaptured a lot of the money that had been sent or designated to us to send to what they called districts that did not have as the resources that we had. I don't know. All I know is that they've had to cut a lot, and so that is, another, big piece we deal with.
Absolutely, a definite challenge. So the state of Texas was going to give 15 state exams to high school students?
Yes, that was 6 years ago. Kate would have been a freshman, yes.
Oh my gosh, like what, even 15, I don't even know what the classes would be.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, so now we're down to, they have an English 1 and English 2. Now, those are also 5-hour exams.
Wow.
And how long is the SAT?
Oh my gosh. So English 1...
They have to pass English 1, they have to pass English 2.
So that's like a 9th grade and a 10th grade English?
Yeah, and just depending on, our ELL population is huge as well. And so they also have to, every student has to pass the English 1, English 2. They have to pass Algebra 1. They have to pass U.S. history and biology.
Wow.
And I guess when it was 15 that it was just like every history, every English, and probably, I'm sure it was Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. I mean, I'm sure all the maths were in there as well.
So what happens to a kid who doesn't pass the English 1 exam, let's say? Then what's the plan?
Well, they have to pass it before they're going to get to graduate. So we offer 2 retesting times per year that they can come in and retest. And then now they've got it down to, like, if they haven't passed, so this is probably the 3rd or the 4th year that, I guess maybe this will be the 3rd year that the standard's been in place. If you get down to it and you have a certain number of students that are a student that has not passed, there is a project process that you can apply for them to go through and complete, and then it has to be signed off on for.
Okay.
Yeah, that they can go through.
Okay. Yeah, we have something similar in Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania did this crazy thing where they, for the project, they asked for volunteers to do the assessment from across the state, and there might have been like 3 people in the whole state of Pennsylvania who volunteered to assess the biology projects. And so, as you can imagine, there was not a quick turnaround for getting those projects graded.
Oh, wow. And so, I mean, were they trying to do it so that kids could walk? I mean, or did they have to graduate?
Yeah, our students take their biology exam at the end of the 9th grade. So most of this was happening to the sophomores and juniors. And it sounds horrible to say, but I think it got to a point where Pennsylvania just said, okay, well, if they turned anything in, just pass them on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So not a great process, but I think a process that so many states across the nation are dealing with and trying to figure it out. So my question to you, Debbie, is if you could get rid of all state testing, would you, or do you like it for any reasons?
Oh, no, I would not get rid of all. I would not get rid of all testing. I mean, I don't think it has to be mutually exclusive, testing or no testing. I think there's definitely needs to be accountability, or not even accountability, but checks and balances along the way as to where a student is. And until there is a way that we can do that can be universally. And I guess it needs to be universal. I mean, to where a standard, to where we're at least all working towards a minimal standard, and then hopefully far surpassing that. I wouldn't have as many, and I definitely would have different paths for students that didn't do well on them. Some type of process where we could really look to see what's going on with this particular student. Not they just didn't pass it. Now put them back in the system to take the test again, and don't pass go until you have. I guess that's what I'm saying, is that if I would like to see there be some alternative ways for students to be able to show that they're competent in an area.
Okay. Now my last question to you, and it's kind of a big one, I guess, but it's one that's on my mind just because next school year in our district, our superintendent has challenged us to basically reimagine school for the 21st century learner and then figure out how to get there, trying to break out of the traditional modes of teaching and learning, if you will. So if you could change just one thing about high school, and it doesn't have to be the high school that you work at, but just your experience at the high school level, both as a student and now in your current job, what's just one thing that you would reimagine?
If I could reimagine, if I was given a school, or we were starting a school from, just what's best for kids and what would that look like, I think that it would be, the schedule would be different, and the courses wouldn't necessarily be biology, English, everything wouldn't be separate. It would be, and I don't want to use buzzwords like project-based or any of that that kind of word, but it would be to where kids were working towards a goal of accomplishing something, and what that goal is involved literacy, it involved math, it might involve researching back in history on what had been done before to make the outcome different in what they were learning. But just learning, using and learning, kind of like what you and I do right now. We have a need, we have something we want to learn, and we need that information to be able to make another piece of what we're doing work. I don't know how all that's structured and what it looks like, but it's kids, using real world skills to learn things and move forward in that light.
Okay. Now, I've thought a lot about this, and you've shared a lot of what kind of already exists in my vision if I was to start a school. So when I do that, I'll call you up so you can move to Pittsburgh and help me along the way.
You start that school. You do it.
Have you read the book Inevitable by Chuck Schwan and Beatrice McGarvey?
I have not. Is it good?
That's a book you should check out because they have some pretty bold visions for what the secondary school setting could look like. It's basically mass customized learning. So the premise is that basically you can customize everything in today's world except for your school experience, which is pretty standardized. And it just kind of shows a vision for how people might do it. I don't know. I'm totally obsessed with the idea right now.
Well, you know what? I'm going to send you two because I just I read on Twitter today. It's an article. Yes, schools can change in just 1 year, and it is. It's written and it's about a district or a school. It's about. I read it not long ago before I hopped online with you, but it is about Tilton School. They got together and they were like, what do we want to see change? And everything they made happen in a 13-month period, and how they reimagined learning and how they restructured. But I'm going to send you the link to this so that you can read through. The links in the article are not great. I tried to click through on some of them, and they're not all linked very well. But It's kind of interesting, and there might be more there for you to follow.
Very cool. Where's this school at?
The Future of K-12. Tilton faculty and staff. It doesn't say.
I just wondered if it was an.
I'm going to shoot you the link to it so you can read this article and then you can look more into it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
But but where I'm at, we're so far from that happening. Which and but I don't want to abandon where I am because I really believe in public education, and I believe that. A school that's huge like mine, that's very traditional, that there are definitely some things that we can do that's going to improve and get us there slower, but there's benefits to both. And I have 3 kids that are in college myself. I've got 2 kids that are going to be seniors and one that's going to be a sophomore. And I know that they left high school and are having to learn a lot of learning on their own now that was not passed on to them. Content-wise, score-wise, they were great. They were able to do everything they've wanted to do, but the learners that I want them to be, they're not yet. And so I want kids leaving high school being learners.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Debbie, how can people connect with you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you after listening to this podcast?
I would say Twitter. Just, reach out on Twitter. I'm Deborah, Debral, Camp, CAMP. And I would love to connect with anybody that wants to reach out.
Okay, Debbie, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and it's a summer day, a beautiful summer day, I bet, in Texas. And I just really appreciate you spending these past 45 minutes with me.
Thanks. I've enjoyed it, too.
Okay, Debbie. Thank you, everyone, for listening in on the PghGal Principal Podcast. I am always excited to connect with women in education, learn how they are balancing work and home, as well as challenging the status quo about what it means to be a successful woman. My podcast is all about elevating the voices of women, so please share these stories with your friends and your colleagues. Find me on Twitter at eclaire_ahs. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.